Hey everyone, it's a brain in a vat again. So while I continue to work on my next video exposing the fraud public relations exhibition from last week's show on the interview room, where they presented pseudoscience junk in an effort to defend a dangerous and unstable con artist, as well as another perfect representation of psychological projection, I thought I'd make a short video with some commentary on the true crime space again. So, as a scientific skeptic, and as I tried to explain in my introduction video, we evaluate truth claims. We teach critical thinking and logic. We try to protect people from fraud, expose pseudoscience, woo woo, false advertising, and sophistry. That's cognitive deception, if you prefer, of all forms. That is why I came to YouTube after having educated on Facebook and science and philosophy literacy for almost a decade now. It was the YouTube true crime bandwagon that caught my eye and became a new topic I wanted to address from the perspective of scientific skepticism and critical thinking. And I didn't really expect to stay here, but here I am, nonetheless, still almost 2 months later. What's important is that we need to understand that this space is now a cottage industry. Far too much of it is not about true crime, helping find missing persons, or even just factually discussing and reporting true crime cases. That's more the background, covering up some far more interesting and even nefarious phenomena. This is a case study in human psychology, group psychology, sociology, and even economics. It is a beaker with its contents to be analyzed, a laboratory in which we can study and come to better understand human behavior together and become more proficient reasoners. It is an opportunity to learn and apply critical thinking to a new trending phenomenon, which has parallels across the gamut of human activity and in all sorts of other areas of intellectual interest. True crime used to refer to TV and cable storytelling about factual criminal cases, a subject which fascinates humans. And if that is your cup of tea, you might like a channel like That Chapter, for example, where you get that straight storytelling aspect of true crime, with a charming individual, some wit, and even a lovely Irish accent, who does his homework and presents the information quite responsibly and factually well supported. The only difference is that it does not have that big production feel and the more stale format of old school TV and cable. And I think that is the appeal. And you see, a channel like that would likely never figure on my target list. And then there are the other sorts of channels that fall under this vague umbrella, this loose definition of true crime channels. And there is a broad range of phenomena outside of the traditional true crime storytelling, from charlatan psychics and other paranormal enthusiasts who claim to have spiritual and magical gifts and even telekinetic powers to provide deep insight into unsolved cases and even read the future. They may even sell you some astrology or life coaching services if you contact them on their website and set up a Skype appointment. And be sure to buy their bogus homemade supplements, which will surely cure your cancer, make your brain grow, or even improve your performance in the sack. The fascination that humans have with true crime is not really a mystery. It taps into our psyche in a way that many other subjects do not. It reveals our voyeurism, our inability to look away from human train wrecks and other people's misery and tragedy. If you understand why shock entertainment like Jerry Springer, fake wrestling, and reality shows were so popular, you likely have figured some of this out yourself. But true crime goes to even the darker side of our psychology. It shows us our worst impulses, just how depraved humans can truly be. And people seem to almost defend this behavior, excuse it away as merely an imaginary thing called evil. After all, normal people like you could never do these sorts of things. But pray tell, how long have you spent in the Andes after a plane crash? Or on a raft in the middle of the ocean with a bunch of other starving and thirsty people? Spent years in the trenches in a war, did you? Locked in a closet by depraved and mentally ill parents or captors for a decade? Experienced years of physical and psychological abuse? Have you never even watched Dangerous Liaison? I'm not sure any of us is truly well situated to know the full spectrum of possible human behavior, or the various different contexts which might reveal the extent of what we're capable of. We like to pretend that this sort of behavior is purely anomalous, defective, inhuman, or even subhuman. We like to believe that we are civilized and moral and could never do anything evil. Sadly, I think, we need to grow up and accept that this behavior is quite human and not nearly as exceptional as we'd prefer to believe. Often, it can be easily exposed by nothing more than a life insurance contract. Humans are capable of a broad spectrum of behavior, from love, generosity, benevolence, and altruism, to depravity, torture, and murder. And I think somewhere deep inside, we all know that, and it scares us, which is part of the allure of true crime. There is an unspoken thrill for many when watching true crime stories, a sort of exhilarating rush which resembles the simultaneous high and fear we achieve when on a roller coaster or at a haunted house. We both want it to stop and to look away, but can't resist. Now, while I don't roll that way, BDSM is a thing, and it's very popular in certain subcultures. And they have very strict rules as to what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. They even have their own lexicon with code words because they recognize and understand that they are playing with fire. And it's a good thing that they have these rules. Their thrills and efforts to get their serotonin and dopamine highs require getting very close to the heat. So close that the lines become blurred between human sadism and masochism, and what people who don't play with fire refer to simply as pleasure and fun. Skydivers jump out of airplanes or off of cliffs to satiate this same desire, and others take recreational drugs. And then there are those who succumb to our darker sides. They let their metaphorical demons take over and drive the ship. Some of that behavior may be best explained in genetics, and some of it in nurture, and all the places in between, like epigenetics and embryology, and any other gaps in our ignorance that we don't yet fully understand that affects human behavior. We, even if only unconsciously, are also attracted to true crime because we do wonder, I think, what might be hiding in our psyche, what we might be capable of doing under different circumstances. This is the sort of dangerous knowledge that is only discussed quietly behind large, thick doors, and that most of us try to push away from our conscious minds. It scares us so. You see, civilization has gone a long way at keeping our demons at bay. It has allowed us to come in from the rain, from the harsh conditions that Hobbes referred to as the state of nature before civilization, a state of prehistory where he described life as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. If you are a humanist, like I am, and you care about human well-being, you hope that civilization continues to create and improve the necessary preconditions for more human flourishing. You might even know a word called eudaimonia. For more people, more of the time. In a sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs analysis, you understand that our challenge is figuring out how to create societies and technology which solve scarcity problems, that satisfy our primitive needs and desires, like adequate nutrition, security, belonging, education, opportunity, a sense of accomplishment, and even self-actualization. If you want an analogy here, think of the difference in behavior between a feral street cat and a domesticated one. Notice the different behavioral patterns between the cat that was abandoned as a baby, had to fend for itself in the streets, was possibly abused and physically harmed, constantly experiencing its life in a state of privation and insecurity. And now, compare the behavioral norms of other cats raised safely with their mother until they were capable of being independent in a loving home with security, nutrition, time and luxury to play and socialize, safe from the harsh externalities of a life on the street. This is our civilizational challenge as a species, and far too many humans still experience much of their life more like that feral cat. And don't get me wrong, if you did see Dangerous Liaison, you know that simply solving the scarcity problem doesn't solve all of our problems. Our metaphorical demons are still present, even in a state of privilege, education, and abundance. Although I would still argue our demons are more rare in that state than in Hobbes' state. So back to the true crime space. There is an abundance of incompetence, lack of ethics, psychological dysfunction, even depravity, and naked opportunism and deceit thriving in much of the true crime space. It is this exploitation, greed, politics, and dirty games that provoke me to make videos like this. It is the likes of sociopaths like Chris McDonough and his clown posse, exploiting mostly middle-aged, naive, and lonely sexual abuse victims, pretending to be their voice and champion, that drives me. It is the obvious cult-like behavior that disturbs me. Watching just the chat from the interview room's video last night was a simple case study to see the moral rot here. A hierarchy of players and frauds, all trying to jockey and compete for McDonough's attention and loyalty, juxtaposed with a frothing at the mouth mob and religious cult ready to send more foot soldiers out to hang another of McDonough's witches, all in the name of a missing girl whose case has likely long gone cold. This poor, scared, and lonely demographic of mostly female devotees, many of whom likely are sexual abuse victims, being pandered to, being exploited, all to feed McDonough's inflated ego and need for acceptance, authority, and even guru status. It's sickening. He is not empowering anyone. He is not a voice for abuse victims. He's not finding any lost children. He is L. Ron Hubbard. He is Jim Jones serving up free Kool-Aid in return for memberships to his cult. And they all tithe regularly in hopes that they can kiss the ring, get their cry for help and question posted on a video screen's lower third for a few seconds. Keep tithing to this used car salesman. Keep pretending to virtue signal to a missing girl for super chats. Keep tithing in hopes that you can soon find internal peace and secure your place in the heavens. If you think McDonough's product is eternal salvation, purification, or the cure to rid you of psychological damage, there is sadly only a proverbial bridge being sold and a down payment on Phish's next RV. I so hope that something will soon click in their minds, that reason will suddenly dawn on them, that some well-constructed argument will somehow resonate and dislodge the toxic brain tick that has infected their brain, so that they wake up and recognize that they're simply being abused again. While their new bruises may not be visible anywhere else than on their retirement fund and sense of self-esteem, the emotional hangover, once they realize, if ever they do, that they've been re-victimized, will likely not afford them the peace they so long for. Their money, trust, and time would be far better spent on professional counseling, finding good friends with a shoulder to cry on and who support them, and the company of honest and moral brokers, not this would-be Kool-Aid pusher and his opportunistic thugs. And that's all I have for you today. À bientôt et à tout à l'heure, mes copains.